true indeed with you. Holy Circle Gaming. Thank you for rocking with your boy like always. Definitely a privilege and an honor to do as such. Y'all see what we getting into. We back at it. Marvel Puzzle Quest continuing the series, of course. Y'all, man, I know it's been a minute. I've been sick, but it's about that time. We about to get ready to get into them 4 stars. It's been a minute, but I got some good stuff for y'all, man. It's gonna be a few things we're gonna cover in this one. We're gonna start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Y'all ready? Y'all know I'm ready. For myself, True Indeed, and Holy Circle Gaming. Let's get into it. Off this list at number 60, Mr. Fantastic. You know what, y'all? Mr. Fantastic is just not really a good character for me. Yes, I know he's important to get certain quests done, especially the Deadpool Daily. He just doesn't do nothing for me. None of his abilities are really even remotely official. I mean, flexibility, maybe you could make a case for something like that, but I really don't like none of his abilities. When you match him up to every single other 4-star character that's in the game, it's hard to really put him in a real spot to really be like, yeah, he's usable. To me, he's not really all that much usable. He's important only to get one section of a Deadpool Daily done on occasion. Outside of that, yes, he is relatively easy to get covers for if you really try to invest into him by upgrading other characters, but that's the extent of it. I don't really like him that much. It's Mr. Fantastic sitting at number 60. He's got to be bottom tier, no question. Anybody who debates with me with that, just have to debate with me. Now, it's crazy at number 59 that I have LOCKJAW, right? I know some people like LOCKJAW. When he first came out, I thought he was pretty okay. Until I realized that I really couldn't use him that well. Now, this is more of a personal preference call of me having him at 59. It's because it's really kind of hard for me to fit him into my roster. Yeah, the abilities are kind of so-so, and that's part of the reason why his color scheme for what he does is pretty cool. It's just none of his abilities, like I said, even like what I said with Mr. Fantastic, it doesn't really do much for me, to be honest with you. I mean, his abilities are okay, his color scheme is okay. It's just for those colors that you have with his abilities, there's so many other better characters who you could utilize those colors a lot better with that identical color scheme. The reason why he sits at bottom tier at number 59 is simply because of that. Not because he's a dog, just because he's not all that great. I'm sorry, but that's why he sits at number 59. Let's get to 58. Man, at 58, I have Sam Wilson, you know, Captain America, the Sam Wilson version. Not to say that I really hate him. It's just his abilities are kind of okay. Being able to use those projectiles for a good ability is pretty cool. But you want a reason why I have him pretty low is because I really kind of more so like the abilities that he has in his 3-star version versus what I see with him in his 4-star version. His 4-star version is okay. Does some relatively decent damage, does some really good, decent uses of projectiles, all of which is cool. I mean, Aerial Avenger is not bad. You know, Dive Bomb is not bad. It's just it's not special either. And you really don't utilize him too much in your 4-star roster. I've rarely seen Sam Wilson used on anybody's 4-star roster. That's the reason why he's top tier. That's the reason why he's sitting at number 58. He's just an okay character at best. Let's get to 57. Now, I know at 57 you're looking at the thing, right? You're thinking that maybe he should be higher. I promise you, I really don't think he should. The one good attribute that he has is that he has really high health. Damage-wise, I've seen other characters at 4-star lanes who would do a lot more damage. And you would think with the one thing that you would have is that at least he would be able to do some really OP damage. His damage isn't really OP. It's good, not great, kind of average to say the least, especially when you compare him to some other 4 stars on the list. But the thing is just really just there just to absorb damage for you. So if you need somebody on your line to absorb damage, things of that magnitude, then you probably want to have the thing on your squad. Certain events will require utilizing the thing as well, especially on some Deadpool dailies. But as far as like overall, especially when you're talking about P versus P, the thing is not really all that great in that aspect, and that's the reason why he sits on the bottom tier for me. Simply because he's just somebody to absorb damage. At 57, we have Venom, Agent Venom, mind you. I know. This is one of those ones that we're going to have like a big problem with. This is not because Venom is a bad character. It really comes down to is that I really just don't like Venom. Every single variation of Venom that's been in this game has not worked for me. I'm not saying that Venom is a bad character outright, but for me personally, I don't think he's all that great of a character personally. Maybe it's just me. I don't know how to utilize the Venom. I don't know where he would fit as far as like my scheme of players. His abilities are pretty decent. They can do some decent damage for you. Nothing special, by the way, but it's at least decent. But it's just me. I can't rock with Venom in any variation. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just a personal bias. I understand if y'all gonna get on your boy for having a little bit of a personal bias. I got you on that. It's just I can't work with Venom at all. He's one of those characters I can't rock with. 55, you're looking at the other Venom, right? Eddie Brock. Y'all think I'm trying to be funny, huh? I'm not being funny when I tell you that I cannot rock with any of the Venoms, no matter which tier that is in. Yes, I know probably the Eddie Brock Venom should probably be somewhere in the 30s. He's not going to be in the top 20 either way it goes. Neither one of the Venoms really qualify for that. Neither one should be at 55 and 56 respectively. Me personally, I think that they are. I don't think that they're necessarily broken. I just think that they just don't work for my particular play style. Your play style would probably say otherwise. Y'all let me know on the comments and we'll see really where we will place them. Maybe I will reseed them down the line. But me personally, whether it's the Eddie Brock Venom, the Agent Venom, any Venom on any tier, I just can't rock with Venom whatsoever. He doesn't do nothing for my playstyle, my scheme, or anything that I try to do in Marvel Puzzle Quest. Let's go ahead and get ready for 54, shall we? At 54, we got Devil Dinosaur. You know what? It's two things that I have a problem with Devil Dinosaur. Is he pretty tanky? To a degree, he can absorb a lot of damage. I'll give him that. Kind of his board shakes is pretty okay. I'll give him that. But here's the problem that I have with Devil Dinosaur. Unless you've been playing for a significant period of time, because he's a limited edition character, A, he's hard to get your hands on. So for you to try to max him out would be pretty difficult to say the least. That's one. The other thing is, with all those things being said, being tanky, being able to shift the boards around, and doing a little bit of decent board damage once maxed out, you actually got to get him there. And that's the problem that I have. That's the reason why he's bottom tier, because I think for most players, it's hard to really get Devil Dinosaur to a point where he actually is going to be effective for you. That's the reason why I have him at 54. Maybe above like Venoms and some other ones, but not much, simply because he's hard to get your hands on. That's the reason why I have him there. Let's go to 53. The same conversation we have with Devil Dinosaur is the same conversation I have with you with Howard the Duck. I kind of like Howard the Duck, somewhat. He's okay. Some of his abilities are pretty cool. You know, that crack food is pretty dope. I'm not going to front. It's pretty alright. I'm not going to even front about that one. But the problem is with Howard the Duck is what you have with Devil Dinosaur. Because he is an exclusive character that's hard to get to, it is very hard to max him out to really get the full benefits. One of the things about most of the other 4 stars, it's hard to get 4 stars as is, but it's really hard to get limited edition ones because they just don't come out at a frequent rate, and you can only get them at certain points in time throughout the year. That's what makes it extremely difficult to really rate Howard the Duck higher. It's simply because his limited availability and his abilities in which he has to work with is decent Nothing special. If they had a special ability, it will make the limited edition all the more worth it. Because it doesn't, that's the reason why he sits there. Let's go to 52. Man, I got Kingpin at number 52. Now, the one thing about having Kingpin at 52 is that, you know, his abilities are just... Now, maybe that was because, I don't know if they nerfed them or not. To my knowledge, I believe that they did. I haven't been playing the game enough to know that if it was like an official nerf or did they switch up his abilities and stuff. But his abilities are just, nothing great. Wilson's Gambit's okay. You know, the fist defense is okay. You know, the one thing I do like about him is that at least the color scheme can help you when you're balancing out. If you're trying to rainbow your squad for whatever reason, it helps in that regard. But you can get much better for your black, you can get much better for your purple, and you get much better for your green. That's the reason why I have him at bottom tier. It's simply because you could get much better abilities off of those colors with other 4-star characters. That's the reason why he's sitting here at 52. He's not horrible. He's just not great either. 51. Nick Fury sitting at 51. I know y'all thinking that that's not necessarily great. You could put him higher, or he could be lower depending on where you rank some of the other characters that's below it. I tend to agree. I'm not in completely disagreement with you. His abilities are decent. Demolition can do some damage, provided that they trigger off. Escape plan is pretty okay. Avengers Assemble can definitely get you some semblance of protection if need be, especially as you grow that ability up. I think he's okay. I don't think that he's great. I don't think that he's horrible. I think that you could definitely do some things because it definitely frees you up some colors, especially if you're trying to rainbow him against some different characters or whatnot. I just think that he's okay. There's a lot more characters I think that does things special. I don't think that he's special. I just think that he's good. But that's the reason why he kind of round out the bottom tier of characters. It's just because he's not great. Good is not going to be good enough when you're talking about 4-star. At number 50, we're looking at Sandman. Now, the one thing about Sandman that I thought was cool when I first got him is that his ability to generate yellows. Now, there's not too many characters that have the ability to generate yellows, but he has one, which I thought was pretty cool for the time being, but that was the only thing I really liked about him. His board shakes were pretty okay. Damage-wise, could be if you have him really maxed out, but it takes a while to get to that point. But for me, he's just a very okay character with one thing that was kind of catching my attention, to generate yellows, because there's not too many characters in any range that really gives you the ability to generate yellows at a pretty frequent basis, and then ones who actually have that ability kind of does it better than what he does. So that's the reason why he's sitting right there at 50. It's because he's just kind of plain basic and just okay. You know, having Ghost Rider at 49 is a pretty decent spot for him. You know, all of his abilities are pretty decent. I'm not going to front. Burning Rubber, Hellfire is pretty cool. The ability to have the repeater title, you don't really see that too often. Pretty decent. It's just, he doesn't do a high volume of damage. So he's really got to utilize him in support. And even in support, there's other characters that does support a little bit better than what he does. It's because the support that he does is fairly basic. His high-end damage is not really high-end. It's just kind of in the mid-grade range. But the reason why I have him a little bit lower, I just think that other characters are a little bit more solid than he is, especially if you're going to utilize him as a support character, because that's the only way you could really move him or push him. His color sequences is pretty cool because it frees you up some other color schemes that you could utilize with them if you're trying to rainbow. But he's definitely not bad, definitely worth the use, but definitely not great. Let's get to 48. Now, at 48, I have ELEKTRA. Now, maybe I have her at the wrong spot. I'm not 100% sure. But I kind of like ELEKTRA, but I kind of like her 3-star version a little bit better. At least to me, in the way I play, I think it's a little bit more useful than what I see with her 4-star. Ballet of Death is actually pretty decent, I'm not going to front. And Double Cross, you know, that's kind of dope as well. It's not really that she's really bad. It's just, I don't know if she really do things that really is distinctive, that steps out. Now, the one thing about ELEKTRA that I will say is this. Out of the 4 stars, she's relatively easy to level up is because there's other characters, other 3-star characters, when you start tiering them up, it gives you her covers. So that's the reason why I have her in the position that she is. I don't think she's great, but she is easy to level off if you're trying to really work with ELEKTRA. Not bad, not great. I kind of like the 3-star version better, the why she's sitting at 48. 47, we have Professor X. Now, there's a few things I do like about Professor X. Now, when you're thinking about Master Plan, that's a pretty decent ability, right? Blind Spot, the ability to go invisible, that's pretty cool because it does keep him out of harm's way for a long period of time. But here is my problem. You know, Blind Spot's pretty cool to a degree to get you out of trouble. That's pretty decent. But Master Plan, on the other hand, you know, with most people in the way that they play, they don't really generate a bunch of 5 matches. They generate a bunch of 4s, but 5 matches doesn't come that often for that ability to really take place. And that's the one thing about Professor X. And even with the invisibility, it's pretty easy to wipe those out as well. So you be kind of hiding for a play or two, and then you're right back taking damage. The problem is he doesn't do a lot of top-end damage. He does a lot of retaliatory damage depending upon situation. That's the reason why he sits at 47, not higher. He's not a top-tier character by any stretch of the imagination. Let's get to 46. Now, if you're a strike tile player, you'll like DRAX sitting at 46. Reason why you'll like him is because he does generate a good number of strike tiles. If you like to utilize strike tiles and ramp those up, that's pretty decent. You know, his board shakes is pretty okay too. Here's one of those characters that is pretty cool. You're going to need to use him from time to time if you're running with your Deadpool dailies. They do have one that does require him. So you probably should have DRAX on your line. His color scheme is actually pretty decent though. He doesn't utilize a green or a blue to really kind of mess up certain color schemes. And the problem I have with him though is that none of his abilities really stand out. It just helps you if you're working with other characters that helps you generate with those strike tiles. Now, if you're a strike tile player, you'll like DRAX. Is he a little low? Maybe. I think I kind of like him at 46. I just doesn't think he's great. I just think he's good at what he does. Spider-Woman sitting at 45, right? Yes. Is she better than 45? Maybe. I don't think she's really better than some of the other ones that you're going to be hearing about later on down the line. She is better than the ones aforementioned for sure. You know, the one ability that I really like and that's really kind of cool is to fear and to love. Now that's a pretty cool ability where you can use it to protect, you should use it to do a lot of damage. The only thing is that it's hard when you're utilizing that in a PvE event, but in a PvP, it actually works out pretty well with her. That's the only reason why I have her lower is because you can only utilize her in certain instances. She's not really a go-to character because of her skills and abilities. She's pretty good, really kind of creative and crafty with some of the things that she can do, but she's just not special enough that you're going to utilize her on a game-to-game basis. Let's get to number 44. Now, don't get too gassed about Wolverine being at 44. He's pretty good because he has 2 versions of board shakes, and I like board shakes, that does a pretty decent amount of damage. I like that. His recovery is pretty good because he can normally stay on his feet, but it's based upon a countdown tile that you really have to protect. And when you have 2 abilities that board shake, it's hard to protect that little recovery tile. But it's cool though. I like him. Don't get it wrong. I don't love him like that. I think that he's decent. I think that X-Force, the way that it spreads out in his board shake is pretty unique. I like that. Surgical Strike is really phenomenal. You could really wipe out somebody with Surgical Strike. So the top end damage is pretty decent too. I just don't think he's better than the ones that you're going to see ahead of him. He's solid though. I like him. Probably should have him on your team if you like board shakes. But this is where he sits. 44. Let's get to 43. You know, Carnage paired up with the right team could really decimate a team. I'm not going to front. The way that he could just constantly throw out attack tile after attack tile after attack tile is really pretty decent. It's just the only thing about him is that I think he's a very, what I would call, situational type character. You can only maybe pair him with a couple of teammates to make him really cook and work. On his own, he's just okay. He does litter the field with a lot of attack tiles that could really kind of do a little something for you or work against you depending. But he just can't sustain himself on his own, which makes him special. And his pair ability, you can only pair him with certain characters that can utilize the fact that he's constantly throwing out these attack tiles. He's okay. That's the reason why he's at 43, but he's not horrible, just not special. Now, I'm going to keep it real 100 with y'all. You know, having X23 at 42, I think that's the right spot for her. I'm just not 100% sure. I haven't really played with her enough. I only seen her played against me in some PvP events. Don't really see too much of her in any PvE events. But the crazy thing about her is that the one ability I saw that was working against me was Stalking Prey. And I thought that was pretty decent. But I don't know if 42 is really the right spot for her. Should she be lower? Maybe. Y'all may be absolutely right. She may be higher. It may be something that I don't see in her gameplay. But from what it looks like her abilities are just kind of average, even though she can pair with other characters pretty well. But I just don't think that she does anything special within her color scheme. But I may be completely wrong. So in this instance, I am going to defer to the masses. Y'all definitely let me know if I'm right or wrong in talking about X23 at 42. Let's get to 41. Now, the one thing about War Machine, sitting at 41 by the way, that's pretty decent is he's pretty tanky. You know, he can absorb a lot of damage, and he actually does a pretty decent amount of damage. Now, do I think that he's extremely special in regards to what he does? Probably not. But aerial assault, pretty good. Gatling gun can really drop some people too. I really kind of like both of those abilities more so than anything else. It's just when it comes to War Machine, you know, pair ability is one of those things. And the other thing that you really don't see, you don't really see a lot of other teams utilize War Machine. And if you're not going to be utilized by a lot of teams, it goes back to my original statement with X23 as I just previously talked about. How good is he if he's not featured on a lot of teams? I think that he's okay. I actually think he's a little bit better than okay. I just think he's right where he is, kind of in the middle of the pack, sitting at 41. Nothing special, nothing great, but Gatling the gun is pretty decent. Sitting at number 40, we have Invisible Woman. Now, I am going to keep it 100 with you. I don't like Invisible Women. I deferred on Invisible Woman because I know that she is useful in a lot of events that come along. So you really got to give her some credence just on that alone. But I do not like Invisible Woman. I would have bottom tiered her off top. But I'm not going to be completely biased like that. It's just the one thing I think about Invisible Woman is that, yeah, Force Field Crush is pretty cool and Force Bubbles is decent. True. It's just I do not like her play style. It doesn't fit to anything that I do whatsoever. But it's almost impossible not to use her because there's so many events that actually requires her. And she has pretty quick upgradability because a lot of like the 3-star characters give you an invisible woman. And she's not on my team, but she is at number 40. Let's get to 39. Now, having the Hulk at 39. Now, this is the totally awesome version in which, you know what, is crazy? Because when I got him, I thought he was decent because of his board shakes and stuff was pretty cool. But he really doesn't do anything special. Yes, can he generate some greens for you? Yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm not going to front about that, but there's other ways to get green. Mastermind XLO, it does a pretty decent board shape, but it ain't special. Hot dog stand, you know, it gives you some health, give you some health back. Pretty good. But even in the other versions of Hulk, I like the other versions a lot better than the totally awesome version of Hulk. I just think that when they did this particular character, I didn't know what they were trying to do. I don't know if they were trying to rush this character. They didn't know what type of abilities to give him. Just kind of like the Hulk smash, be a tank ability, which is okay. It's just he never gets any run. Not on my team, at least. I rarely run him. That's the reason why he sits here at 39. He's mid-tier. At 38, I do have KRAVEN the Hunter. Now, again, one of those new characters that just came out. I haven't had much time to really run with him extensively to really know all the ins and outs. But I think this is where he kind of lays 38. You know, if he's sitting at 38, that's about right. I think he's mid-tier. I don't think he's really top tier. I may be wrong. Again, this is one of those instances where I will defer. I just think that his abilities that he has, Wounded Pride, you know, Most Dangerous Game, I think those are pretty decent abilities. I just don't think that they're really all that great. I just think that he's just a mid-tier. I think he got some good pair ability as far as like his color and his color scheme. I just don't know if they're going to tinker with him a little bit to maybe up some of his abilities a little bit. But I just think he's okay. I ran into him in some PvP events and ran with him on a versus event. I think he's okay. Not great. He doesn't really match my personal playstyle, but you could make a case for him being a little bit higher on the list. Okay. Miles being at 37? Maybe. That's about right. I'm not going to front. I like him at 37. I just think some of the things that he do is pretty decently. I just think he's a good mid-tier character. I know you don't see too many people running with Miles Morales when you see a lot of 4-star squads. That's the reason why he is a little bit lower. But he's pretty decent in what he does. Hide and seek is good. Venom Blast is pretty decent as well. So he has the ability to kind of linger around and stick around. I like him. A little bit squishy. His health is always a little bit suspect to me, at least early on. I think you really have to like propel him, get a lot of coverage for him to really cook. But he's okay. Like I said, that's the definition of a mid-tier character where they don't have anything that's like a real flaw, except for maybe being health-wise, but nothing that really sticks out to really say that he's special. That's what I really think about Miles Morales. I have ran with him a little bit. He's okay, just not great. Now, Gwenpool sitting at 36, you can make a case for her to be better, but I really think that she's in the right spot sitting at 36. Here's the reason why. The one ability that she's really great at, Deus Ex Machina, is super fire. Even though you got to get the little gun title out first, once you get that out and once you get that ramped up, she can really decimate a team. Even though it's kind of random with the shots, she can knock them down. But here's where she kind of falls flat. Plot armor is decent because it gives you decent protection, but you gotta fly solo for a couple of turns in regards to it, so it kind of negates out. And the other problem it was exploits is if you don't know the code scheme to get the ability to work, then that's a dead ability to you. And not too many people know all the combinations to work it. But if you do know the combinations, that exploits is very special. So you can make a good case for her to be really a top tier character or really a bottom tier character. But I really think she's right in the middle at 36. I know. I have Gamora at 35. I know. You can make a case for Gamora really being top tier. Here's the reason why. Incapacitate, stops a team member, gives you the ability to get like a strike attack tile on a purple. Great. Deadly strike, really some decent damage. Great. Deadliest woman, the ability to throw a variation of protect, attack, and strike tiles out there and to litter the field. But the special ability that she has, if they're all hit with purples and it's still sitting on the board with no purple showing, but everything filled with a special tile of some sort, you can take out an enemy no matter what the health is. That's pretty special right there. I have her at 35 only because I think it's hard to really get those strike and attack tiles pretty fluidly on the board at all times, but she's very good at what she does. Now, I have Luke Cage sitting at 44. Now, you can make an argument that Gamora and Luke Cage can flip-flop. I'm kind of cool with that because they both do things pretty similarly. Now, actually, I'm going to keep it a buck with you. If you actually run Gamora and Luke Cage in tandem with either Rocket and Groot or Iron Fist, you really have something special here. Anyway, Bunch of Fiddle Faddle could do a lot of decent damage for you. Heroes for Hire, pretty decent as well, because when you have the Heroes for Hire, it actually gives you some protection over your tiles and stuff, which actually help people who throw out attack tiles and strike tiles and protect tiles and stuff. A la Gamora, amongst other ones. I like him because he also does damage with it as well. I actually think he's fairly decent. I just think that he only works well with certain characters. He doesn't work well with all characters, but he's pretty fluid. That's the reason why he's in the middle of the pack, sitting at 34. At number 33, I have Winter Soldier. Now, the one thing I tell you about Winter Soldier is that his abilities work out pretty well for you, provided that you have them. You know, precision shot is exactly that. It actually does some pretty decent damage, especially when you have it ramped up. Moving target I like a lot too, because with moving target, the ability to kind of bounce around that damage around, if you can keep it on the board, is pretty cool. The only problem that you have is that with his abilities comes a little bit of negative, because when you think of a title like Moving Target, that could get wiped away pretty fast if you're dealing with teams that have board shake. Outside of that, I think he has decent health. I think he has decent top end speed. I just think that when you talk about his colors individually, I think that you could get better results off of different characters with those colors. And when you're talking about pair ability, I don't see that you utilize him as often as you may think you will, unless he's one of your only 4-star characters on your team. Let's get to 32. Nightcrawler sitting at 32. I think that's about right. This is another one of those characters where I thought that he was maybe better than some of the other newer characters, but I could be completely off the grid with this one here. Because Nightcrawler is not one of those characters that you see too often when you're playing in 4-star land, or if you're in 3-star transition in a 4-star land. And part of it is just because he's simply really too new, and you just don't see too many people rocking with Nightcrawler. From what it looks like though, I like his color scheme. I really like what he does in that regard. I think what he does is pretty decent. Garde is pretty fast. I like it. Doesn't take too much to get the ability off, amongst other things. I just think that health-wise, I just think that he's a little squishy when it comes to health proportions, but that's just a minor thing. I don't think it's too major. I just think that he's in the middle. I've seen some people list who have him a little bit higher, somewhere in the 20s. I don't think he's in the 20s. I just don't think he's at the bottom either. I think he's right where he is, smack dab in the middle, 32. Now, smack dab in the middle, Iron Man, Hulkbuster, 31. Yeah, man, I think he's decent, and the way that he generates reds is really good. I just don't know if he's special. He is really the definition of a tank. He can really do some pretty decent top end damage. He just doesn't do any of like the unique tricky stuff outside of generating reds that you will want to see out of other characters. I think you get a little bit more when you're talking about like the repulsor punch. You know, even though that's some pretty decent top end damage, there's some other characters that could give you pretty similar top end damage. Hulk proof, pretty decent, where it kind of changes the board up. It gets off of the greens, get onto the reds. The only problem with that would be is that normally when you're matching up teams, you normally have somebody with the green that you're going to need, and that Hulk buster kind of negates. So pretty decent. I actually like him smack dab in the middle at 31. I just doesn't think that he's great. Maybe I'm wrong though. Alright, there y'all have it, folks. We got through the bottom half of the top 4 stars. We're gonna go through the next half of the 4 stars in a little bit. Tell me what y'all like about the list. Y'all like it? Y'all hate it? Let me know what y'all thinking so far. I know it's different than what y'all been thinking, but it's a pretty good list. I tend to think so myself. Y'all know how we do. I'm Mr. True Indeed, of course. Y'all know who I represent. It's the Holy Circle Gaming. Like always, it's God above everything. Till the next time, family, we'll do it again soon.